And we are going live. Perfect. Awesome. We're live right on the dot too. So this is awesome. Thank you so much, Braden, Larry, for joining us today. And everyone in the audience, we're going to wait a few minutes just for everyone to join in. We've got a really impactful session today on AI in hospitality, one of our first webinars for 2024, and a surprising number of signups. Over 250 people have signed up to this webinar. So really excited to share more information and kind of just explain more what's going on with AI in hospitality. So I'll give a brief description of today's webinar, then we'll discuss a bit more what the key topics you're going to be learning about, and then also who should attend. So if you're the right fit for this conversation, either way, obviously always happy to have new people in these webinars. So is AI truly available for short-term rental professionals today? This is one of the questions we want to answer. Enough with the theory. We've talked about it now for 6-7 months, and we want to see kind of some real-world applications, especially as it's one of the top predictions for 2024 across different webinars you may have seen towards the end of 2023. So what you'll learn today: what are the opportunities for short-term rental professionals to implement AI in your hospitality business? Example of who is doing it right today. The process of how short-term rental businesses can start implementing AI in the business, specific tool recommendations, and which technology fits for your business. And then, of course, networking with industry leaders and peers in the interactive Q&A, where you can ask questions and speak with other people from this industry that might be implementing AI. So if you are a property manager, a CEO, an operations manager, a revenue manager, guest service leads, and you want to learn more how you can save time, be more efficient with your business, this is going to be the perfect webinar for you. A few housekeeping items before we get started, everyone. So there's on the right-hand side, you'll see a little chat bubble. There's also a polls question. So if you guys want to interact with us and share some information, and you can ask questions at any time, but we are going to answer for Q&A. We're going to answer that towards the end of the session, just so we can kind of go through our agenda, share some knowledge, and then, of course, have a more interactive conversation. There's also, I think, emojis somewhere. So if you guys want to react anytime, you can just, there you go, toss a bunch of emojis. Beautiful. Hey, Tom. Hey, Shane. Super excited to have you guys here. Michael, if anyone wants to drop in the location in the chat of where they're coming from, this is awesome. It's always cool to see how global these webinars are. And without further ado, let's get started. You guys ready? All right, let's do it. So why are we talking about this? Why now? Let's do a quick introduction. We'll start off with you, Braden. Do you want to give us a quick introduction on yourself and Adaptive?
Yeah, happily. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you to Francois and Larry for helping to organize this. Really excited to chat with you. My name is Braden Flaherty. I'm the Hospitality Program Manager for Adaptive. At Adaptive, we use AI to deliver personalized experiences at scale for the hospitality and e-commerce industries. In transparency to everybody on this call, I'm relatively new to AI. I'm certainly much more of a hospitality expert than AI expert. My background is in building product for the vacation rental industry. I've been involved since about 2009 and have delivered something on the order of 3,000 direct booking websites in that time. And so I'm looking to apply the lessons we've taken in building great direct booking and converting websites and how we can take those further with AI.
Amazing, amazing. And I know originally we had, oh my God, I'm blanking. You weren't supposed to be on this webinar. Evan was. Oh my God, how did I blank there? But Evan left Adaptive, unfortunately, and went to X. So he betrayed the vacation rental industry and went for the big tech companies. If you're on this webinar, Evan, you know, I will remember this.
We're all a little hurt by it. We can't blame him. It's hard to compete with Elon's deep pockets, and I think they saw what an incredible guy he was and did the right thing bringing him over.
I saw they just raised $500 million for his project. Did you see that? Yeah.
Not surprised. Not surprised. So he's got the funds to move forward. Amazing. Larry, do you want to give us a quick introduction as well? Share a bit more about yourself and the industry. Looking forward.
Hi, I'm Larry Hoffer. I'm the founder and CEO of the Rentals Company. I have 21 years experience in the vacation rental industry, starting a business in Vail, Colorado, and now we have a whole suite of brands and services to help property managers grow. One of the reasons working with Francois and Braden on this, is we launched a product last year called Genie, which is an AI product for vacation rental managers, and we recognize the growth of the industry, and I wanted to bring these industry leaders. And I got to meet Francois last September. And for those of you who are just meeting him for the first time, he's one of the brightest minds in the industry. So pay attention to him. Ignore Braden and I. Pay attention to him.
No, that's not true. That's not true. I'm just the one who still has hair left. That's the only
true.
difference between us. You
It's
guys
only
are
a matter
smarter.
of
That's
time.
it. Exactly. Amazing. And my name is Francois. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Enzo Connect. We are a guest experience platform for the vacation rental industry, and our mission is simple: digitize and monetize every step of the guest journey. You'll see a little CN Tower right next to me. We're based out of Toronto, Canada. So we're just your friendly neighbors up north. I see a lot of people from the US, but I see people from all over the world. This is awesome. Love to see you all in here. So we're going to get started. The first thing I kind of wanted to do is introduce a bit more the topic of AI in a more general way. So understanding what AI is. It's obviously a big buzzword. It sounds like crypto and NFTs, and yet it's actually being applied in a lot of technologies. So it's completely different. The first thing is there's three different types of AI. There's narrow AI, there's general AI, and there's super AI. Narrow AI is super simple. It's not really simple, but it's the idea of running a bunch of calculations to solve one specific problem. So I'll give you an example. The supercomputer by IBM to beat chess players or Go players. They're performing a bunch of calculations. They're almost predicting what all of the different possibilities and permutations are, with one result to win against the player. The concept of general AI is more of this human consciousness. So it's also probabilities. It's also a math equation, if you will. But the idea is to create more of a human-like conscious result. So being able to answer a message with a very perfect tone. And this is what you're going to see with ChatGPT. And then, of course, there's super AI, which is this idea of Terminator, where it basically just does everything, and it'll cook you an omelet while taking over the world and flying a spacecraft. We're not there yet. That's a couple years from now. We can check in with Elon Musk's product updates, but we're not there yet. So we're really going to focus more so on general AI and narrow AI today. In terms of macro trends that we've sort of looked at within the hospitality industry, so 73% of hospitality IT decision makers said that AI and machine learning leads their business strategy for 2024. And this is a reduction compared to cybersecurity, which dropped down to 64%, and cloud, which is at 58%. Over a third of them started using AI just a year ago. It was 3 years ago, it was about 13% of hospitality operators that had some sort of AI in their business. 2 years ago was again 13%. And then this past year was 37%. So we're going to look a bit more under the hood to see where AI is being applied. Because again, it sounds like a buzzword, but you're already using it. If you're using revenue management systems, now it's just kind of pushing you in the right direction of other places that you can use it. All of these numbers, by the way, we're going to share them in an awesome infographic or document so that you can kind of review all of this. And of course, feel free to answer the ongoing polls. Last but not least, AI's influence on travel industry revenues. So in 2018, AI had an influence for about 9% of hospitality revenues. In 2021, it was about 21%. And 2024's projection is about 32%. I'll provide all the sources for all of this data after this chat. But this just gives you a bit of an idea of like, why is it taking over? Why is it so important? And so for that, we're going to start off with a question for Larry, which is, how does AI contribute to the growth of short-term rentals, and what is possible now?
So we are focused on the generative AI for content. We're a marketing and growth company, and we looked at tools to make everyone more efficient in how they do everything. Now, for years, we've been using versions of AI with Grammarly. For anyone who's been using Grammarly, which most of you should have everyone in your company using Grammarly before they ever send an email, but we've almost made it our standard in our company how to operate is never do anything, because they always improve how you write, and we always predict it. That was an earlier version of AI that we didn't think about AI. And then just over a year ago, when ChatGPT launched, there was this aha moment that we all hit. Now, some people saw from the beginning how to get in and use ChatGPT, but if you can make your workflows and your content better and use it to ask questions, it was a prompt to make everyone better, whether it improved your guest engagement, your marketing effectiveness. That is really how it works. Is we see it from our perspective on using AI as a tool to improve your marketing and guest engagement and owner engagement. That's where we see the most of it.
I love that. And I think you have also a few stats. Maybe you want to share around the benefits of AI in the hospitality business. I don't know if you have them up and running. I have them up for you if you want.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I see that right here. That it's the studies that you came up with, that you shared with us, is 67% find it for improving speed and efficiency, and then of course it helps you predict how you're going to do things by engaging. I think it's almost 60% are finding it improves how you can predict and get better results, and also it just helps you reduce your risk because you're not making mistakes and you're just eliminating bad
Human
moves
error.
by your business. Yeah.
100%. And how about yourself, Braden? So where is AI on the tech adoption curve in the hospitality industry today? Because it was a hype 8 months ago, right? We all started using ChatGPT. It was free. We could play around with it. And we finally saw this concept of AI that seemed like it was just for the tech world, Silicon Valley. Maybe it's being applied in a few tools here and there, but now everyone has access to it, right? It's more normalized. So where are we on that tech adoption curve?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you called it really well, and I think it's worth pointing out that so much of AI in the news is about hype. I think if you're in business or in a procurement department, there is a lot to hack through. You're getting pitched. Every startup is an AI startup these days, regardless of their actual tech stack. And so cutting through that's super important. In terms of where we are, I mean, if you think of that classic tech adoption curve where you're going from the innovators and early adopters who take a keen interest in technology because of the love of technology or because their business strategy is to take risks on those things to stay ahead of their competition. If you're looking at things like generative AI, that's been in use, as Larry said, with tools like Grammarly for a few years now. We really saw with ChatGPT just about a year ago make that jump across that technical chasm where things fail to gain traction with the broader market. And I think many of us have seen that or heard the stats around OpenAI's fast growth, where they had more monthly active users in their first 3 months or in a 3-month period last year than like there were iPhone users, tablet users, any social media network growth curve. So this exceptional growth into the pragmatist kind of early majority. And I'd say it's somewhat plateaued since then. A lot of folks, at least in terms of consumer adoption, have found it hard to find ways to integrate that into their workflows. But I think the other thing worth calling out on this curve is that ChatGPT and generative AI is one segment of AI. And each of those different schools of software is in a different place on this curve. When we're talking about things like predictive analytics among Fortune 500 companies and enterprise organizations, certainly that's in the late majority space. That is blocking and tackling work these days is applying AI to big data. What we're really seeing is this getting broken out among different segments of the travel industry. And as we know, defining the travel industry is super challenging. We've got everything from large enterprise organizations, airlines, international hotel chains, down to mom and pop operators, B&Bs, individual hosts. And so I think one thing we're seeing accelerate here is the curve is shortening and steepening a bit so that those new technologies become available and actually useful to the smaller players. And I think, a lot of the names I'm seeing on this webinar really do kind of come from the smaller side of that bell curve. We're not all managing Delta or Hilton hotels. So we don't have the in-house tech teams. So what can we do to adopt technology to help give our more constrained teams a leg up? And I think that's where we're starting to see the jump from early adopters into some real mainstream adoption among this group.
And one thing I want to add
100%
is what I've seen in the vacation rental industry. Some of the larger operators were very, very early on in putting this in place, training their staff, especially those who hired overseas staff members. They made that their standard operating procedures, that the people in the Philippines were using a version of ChatGPT. I've talked to some other operators who've done custom programming and built their own APIs to ChatGPT for their own solutions. But these are for the companies that have thousands and thousands of properties. And on the other end of the curve, I remember having a demonstration with a travel advisor who was a middle-aged woman, and she looked at a demo and said, "Is that like artificial intelligence?" They had no idea that this was even existing. So you have both covered on this chart right here.
100%. And I'll add two things to this chart. The first one is you mentioned the quick adoption from a consumer level of ChatGPT, right? If I look at Airbnb, it took them about 2.5 years to get their first million users. If I look at Netflix, it took them about 3.5 years. Spotify, 5 months. Instagram, 2.5 months. ChatGPT, 5 days.
Right.
5 days to get their first million users. I mean, it is one of the fastest growing, OpenAI obviously being one of the fastest growing tech companies out there. And I think what's really important is to understand that the applications isn't just writing copy for your emails. It's a wide variety of things that you can do. And whether it's in the inside an actual piece of tech that you're already using, your PMS, rentals, adaptive, whatever that might be, or as Larry mentioned, as part of your operating procedures on how you do things and how you review copy and how you review your messaging and so on. It is past that sort of chasm that we talk. It's a great book, by the way, the Crossing the Chasm, in terms of adoption and tech adoption. I fully agree with generative AI moving into the next phase. I would say one of the types of AIs that is still in the tech enthusiast world is video. I think we're not there yet when it comes to video, but as soon as we pass that we cross that chasm with video, I mean, Pixar is just going to be pumping movies every 2 seconds because they can literally just write a story and it'll generate a video for it. So excited to see that side of the evolution as well.
I will share that. One of the links I'm sharing, Francois, there's a source we use that does video generation, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I have an example of that.
100%.
Okay.
No, there are definitely tools, and then imagery as well. I mean, I found myself procrastinating on a Sunday and just creating cool images with AI. So don't go down that rabbit hole, but there's definitely a lot of use cases. So in terms of AI and availability for vacation rental managers today, obviously we hear a lot of softwares bringing this in, but let's look at a few examples of where AI is already being applied. Because believe it or not, if you have a tech stack and you're not running your business with pen and paper, there's a big chance that you are actually already leveraging technology that's using AI. And we're going to look at first revenue management, dynamic pricing, and upsell opportunities / personalization. So on the revenue side, and shout out to Wheelhouse, Beyond Pricing, Price Labs. These are systems that are ingesting massive amounts of data from globally just to be able to price your properties correctly. They're already in a way using a form of AI. Braden, would you agree that we would bucket this more in the narrow AI bucket when it comes to dynamic pricing or revenue management?
I would. Built for a very specific outcome, very specific use case. We're not going to be setting these up to be autonomous agents running our business. These are to help us solve a specific problem.
Yeah, 100%. On the operations side, we see predictive maintenance as well as AI copilots. Now, AI copilots is kind of a new trend right now that's coming up where you can build your own copilot for your app. We're looking at a company right now called Superflows, which is really cool. And the idea is, okay, we've ingested all of this information, but let's not actually perform one specific task. Let's let the user decide what kind of tasks they want to perform. So it could potentially update information in your PMS, or it could create graphs on your data so you could better understand your business. It's, again, back on the general side, but still performing a more specific task. Guest experience. That's something obviously we focus a lot on. So whether it's AI chatbots, whether it's just predictive messaging, being able to draft up content like guidebooks, understanding the sentiment of a conversation so that you can really track the user behavior, automation and personalization. And we're going to talk about personalization at scale. This is what AI unlocks. And I would also bucket a lot of what you guys do under the guest experience tab to a certain extent. Maybe you want to share a bit more on that specific vertical.
Sure. One of the things that we we believe in is using we're focused on the content and everything else. Sasha, could you bring up that demo slide that I shared with you? I want to show a guest experience that one of a property manager in Park City has. So if we can pull up that slide, I'm gonna ask her to do it, not me.
Yeah, all good,
Oh,
all good.
no,
Sasha's working in the background. She's
okay,
the one
good.
organizing all of this. So
Yes, thank you, Sasha,
let's
for
see.
doing this. So one of the things that happens is engaging with guests to get them to come to your destination. There's all sorts of tools that are out there that you want to engage your guests to attract you. And as soon as Sasha brings it up, then that's one way of doing it is through a guest engagement on the site. And I'm stalling while she brings that up.
No worries.
Here,
let's see if I can get it up and running.
Or I could do it. Here we go. I'll bring it up right here. Am I able to share my screen?
Oh, Dennis is sharing. Sorry, I have someone else who's doing the sharing. Yeah, can you hit the share button at the bottom there?
I will do that right now.
All good.
I will do this right now. Thank you. It'll be over here. So here is a guest experience. You should be seeing my screen right here. This is a property. This is a property manager in Park City, Utah, that has on their site the ability of planning their trip to Park City, and they go through and they choose some dates in Park City. There probably isn't a 2-day stay there, and they want to do indoor arts and science, and they say they're doing with 4 adults, and they can just plan. And this through an integration with ChatGPT, it plans a guest, and I did this very, very quickly, a guest trip to Park City so they can understand why they should visit Park City and what they can do. And of course, if this
Larry, I don't think we're seeing the screen. We're only seeing generative AI examples and resources.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No,
Thanks,
that's
Richard.
that's the best part of having someone doing this is you can share an entire screen.
Share the link, if anything.
No, I'm going to have it right over here. There we go. So now you see it, correct?
Amazing. Yeah, now we can see it.
So at Moose Management, they have the ability on their site to get people to plan a trip to Park City for a few days for 4 adults, 1 child. They want to do indoor arts and science. And just like that on their site, it starts preparing a whole trip to Park City, making a recommendation for an itinerary, things to do. It's helpful for people who've been there and who haven't been there before. Now, if it doesn't lead to bookings, what's the point of it? And all you have to do is you click here, and it shows all the properties that are available for the same dates. So it creates a whole itinerary that they can save and share with their friends. And this is a way of engaging with guests using AI to give them an experience of planning a trip to Park City. So that's one example.
This is awesome. I mean, this is personalization at scale, right? Obviously, you have Google, and you could always go out there and search what you want. But I think one of the key things in hospitality experience is, and this was I'm going to misquote it, but it was from one of the fancy hotels, I believe the Ritz-Carlton or maybe the Four Seasons. And it was something around the idea of we want to know as a guest, you want to be almost spoon-fed ahead of time before you even know these types of experiences. And that's the concept of a concierge, right? So what you guys have built, Larry, is basically that concierge at scale for these property managers, and then the ability to then book the property. So it's almost taking the experience and flipping it around. Braden, tell us a bit more about personalization, because this is a big thing around Adaptive as well.
Yeah, and actually, I'll chime in. It was Ritz-Carlton. That goes back to like their original operations manual was talking through the value of personalization to the hospitality experience. And that's something as hospitality providers, we all, I think, natively understand. Greeting guests by name when they're on property, asking them how their stay was, following up with them on booking anniversaries and things like that. Throughout that process, personalization is key to helping a person like create a bond with wherever they're visiting. And that's, I think, what creates some of the most valuable vacation experiences. And when we really feel like we're part of that community we were visiting, we felt like we got the most out of it. And that's different for every individual. What AI is allowing us to do in a lot of cases is extend that experience to that pre-purchase, to before they're on property, to their educational and research phase, to their consideration and purchasing phases. And so this is an area where my company Adaptive is heavily involved, where we're looking to leverage all of the data from every past guest and every past guest experience to understand as a new guest comes in, how can we optimize their experience based on everyone else who's ever passed through the door? And we see heavy investment in this in certainly all of the major OTAs. And this is something that we expect as consumers. Your experience on any e-commerce store these days is very likely heavily personalized. It's a consumer expectation for something like 80% of the market when we're talking about retail, and that's coming quickly to travel, especially as consumers get exposed to more and more of these real life examples. And so some of the ways that might be expressed, I'm sure we all love ads. When we're served a Google pay-per-click ad or a display ad, machine learning and AI are deciding which version of that ad is going to be most effective on you. Maybe you're publishing multiple ads to bring people to your site. Well, now that they're on the site, how do we personalize the experience for them? How do we make sure that they're being guided towards the content, the products, the properties that are going to help them make or complete their decision, their reservation? And so we're seeing a lot there. I think the customer service piece that Larry touched on is huge. Airbnb has been pretty transparent with their goals to launch a substantial, cross-disciplinary trip planning tool that can pull together not only a place to stay, but activities and transportation. So huge opportunity there as well. And then I think something that we maybe don't like to acknowledge is how much opportunity there is to personalize upsales. This is a place I see a ton of potential for a lot of businesses, especially more mature ones. Your opportunity to grow revenue is as much or bigger on the ancillary revenue side than it is through inventory growth and growing occupancy. And so if you can grow your ancillary revenue, it's a fantastic opportunity for you. And it's very difficult. We're accommodation providers principally, most people I see in this webinar. But there's all kinds of activities and add-ons that you have available in your market. If we can use AI to point people to those correct examples and go through an upsell process that you can actually do at scale, not have to have a reservationist guiding people through what size ski boot are they, how many beach towels do they need, all of those things. It's a great way to grow revenue and margin without impacting your team's operations or having to scale your team itself.
100%. And I couldn't agree more with that statement around upsells. I know we sell about $250,000 a month just of early check-ins and late checkouts. I can only imagine what happens once you start getting into the more personalization aspect of things with, trip planners and so on. I mean, the fact that hotels hire concierge desks, have someone next to the front desk that is just there to know the right places for you, et cetera. And of course, there's always that human contact that's really important in hospitality. But the research and the understanding of what someone wants can be performed with AI at scale, as we've seen with Larry's system, and as we see just in general by asking questions in ChatGPT. I sometimes just anecdotally, I will sometimes have a bunch of ingredients in my fridge and I'm not inspired as to what I need to make. And I will type in ChatGPT all these ingredients and it'll pump out 10 different recipes. And there's my Sunday evening cookout. So you can get creative on all the different use cases. I'll try to focus still on the hospitality industry and not my personal cuisine examples. So today we're going to talk as well about getting started. We've given you a bunch of examples, some cool ideas of what to do, but obviously, we want to understand a bit more, okay, how do I get started? And at Enzo Connect, we're going to send you this document at the end for everyone who's registered. There's the 5 Ps: purpose, people, process, platform, and performance. These are kind of the 5 Ps for you to assess where, how, and when to apply AI in your hospitality business. So to start off, we've got purpose. Identify the challenges. And what I mean by this is sometimes I see people who just want to implement AI for the sake of AI. I think one of the best cold calls I ever had with a vacation rental manager was that person asking me, do you have AI? Me answering yes, and us moving on to the next subject. That was not good for me because that meant, why do you want AI? Like, you shouldn't be just getting AI for the sake of AI. You really need to understand, what are those challenges? Are you trying to grow revenue with better pricing algorithms? Are you trying to add more properties at scale and it's taking you too long? Or you try to answer messages from guests and they're always asking the same questions? Whatever those different use cases are, understand the real problem that you are going after. And by the way, just little Side note, I see all your questions. We are definitely going to be answering them. Don't worry. We're not ignoring you. And these are amazing. Keep asking questions. We're going to get to them. So this is purpose. Don't use AI for the sake of just using AI. Understand the problem. People. Is there someone in your company that is a champion of technology? Is there someone out there that is excited? That's the one that's sending you articles about the coolest devices that came out. Someone who can help champion that sort of new technology improvement or adoption. Because again, you're going to need buy-in from everyone when you do this. Process. And this is going to go big on centralizing data. We're gonna dive a bit more on this with Braden around data warehousing. So where is all of this information? Is it sitting in your PMS? Is it sitting in your guest experience platform? Can you export it? Can you send information from one system to the next? Is it on a paper, like piece of paper that you've written out in a spreadsheet? Wherever that is, try to figure out how you're centralizing and organizing this information. You can organize it by property. You can organize it by region. You can organize it by team members, whatever will make sense in solving that problem. And last but not least, the two last ones are platforms. So understanding, are there platforms out there that already have implementations of AI? There's no point in rebuilding the wheel if there's already tools out there. And finally, performance. Now, calculating the ROI of AI in your business, this is going to be unique for every business operator, but trying to create different KPIs or benchmarks to understand, am I actually improving certain metrics, whether it's customer service, whether it's onboarding new properties, et cetera. So these are our 5 Ps. Braden, maybe you want to dive in a bit more on centralizing your data and planning workflows, because this is a big part of getting started, right?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, there's quite a bit of intimidation of just, I feel like AI is for the largest organizations, it's for enterprise businesses, it's not for me. And for some folks, that may be the case today, but that's going to change quickly. So the main thing I would encourage folks is to be forward-looking and starting to treat your data as a real asset, and understanding that the portability of that data, your ability to access it from different applications, is critical. And to start asking questions, especially if you're in like a vendor review process, if you're evaluating a new property management software, a new website provider, a new CRM, any of those tools contain critical information for you. And regardless of the feature sets that they make available, which are great, you need to make sure that you have access to the data, that you own that data, that it's portable, that it's available via a database query, an API call, something like that, so that you can extract it from the platform, that you have a plan when you're migrating. And that's maybe the biggest mistake I see vacation rental managers make specifically, is rushing a migration and not recognizing the value of the data they're leaving behind. So all of your past support requests, all of your past, housekeeping and service requests, reservation history, inquiry history, analytics history out of your GA, if that's what you're using, all of those things form extremely valuable training materials for all kinds of different forms of AI. My business at Adaptive, we happen to have an ability to structure that data for you, so we don't necessarily need it aggregated in one place. We can consume unstructured data and make sense of it. That's not the case for a lot of folks, though. And so to be able to cast the widest net and use a lot of these new softwares and AI capabilities that are coming out, you may need to centralize your data. And that's where these customer data platforms come in, CDPs. And I know Larry's got some interesting stuff to share with us there. But I think the main takeaway is, during those vendor procurement process, during your buying process, ask what data is being collected and confirm you have access to it and that you own it. The good news is, more and more, this is the default. This is the case. All of the major PMSs generally will make that available to you. But even going back a couple of years, that really wasn't the case. And I think especially for those customers that are mid-market, where you're big enough that you want to own more of your technology stack and you're building these things yourself, it is critical you have, again, a champion on your team who understands the value of that asset and is building things with that in mind. Because that's easy to overlook when we're just looking to launch the latest feature, make a homeowner happy, whatever it might be. We need to start looking at the data as much of an asset as the relationships we have with homeowners, as the properties themselves.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah.
Larry, you want to touch a bit more on data warehousing?
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things I recognized when I first started my first vacation rental company 21 years ago, that every time we got an inquiry from a guest, that was valuable. and this is before computers. We had them on tick sheets, manual tick sheets, 21 years ago, that Susie Jones inquired about going to Vail, Colorado on these dates. That was very valuable information. So I learned that 21 years ago, and we built some internal systems for my legacy company where we kept all the data warehoused in a centralized. We realized over the years that the vacation rental industry has grossly underutilized their data, the historical inquiry and booking data. And you need to have that data organized in a standard way before you can make it actionable. So having the data is one, and then the second part is making it actionable. I'll remember a few years ago, there's a property general manager of a large property management company with 5 markets. And I said, if you have a customer data platform and allows you to segment your message, that way you could target people with a customized message. And he looked at me and said, why would I want to do that? I could just send the same message to everybody. He clearly did not get it. He's left the industry and he didn't get it. And I realized he's probably not the only one. I do know that the largest property management companies in the industry do have customer data platforms. But and the whole point of that is to have customized messaging for marketing. And you're going to say, oh, if I have all this data, I have to have customized messaging. How can I make it easy for me to customize my delivery of the message? And that's where AI comes in. Because once you define the audience, you can then use that data to customize the message. And one of the things Francois, you brought this up earlier about creating graphics. If you want to customize a message on a graphic of people visiting Hilton Head in the summertime, and you want to, with their family playing golf, to create a graphic like that, you have to hire designers and photographers and everything else. Or you can use AI to generate this. And I'm going to give you an example that our designers used for one of our brands to create a graphic. So we are, one of our brands is a dog-friendly website called Take Paws. This is where you can only, we have, I think, 20,000 properties where the properties are dog-friendly. So our marketing department created these ads by going into, I think she did this in Canva. Canva, I think, was one of the solutions in Canva, and she prompted it to create a series of ads with dogs going on ski vacations, beach vacations, and she went through several iterations to do it, to create the actual dogs on vacation. And some of these tools, once you get into it, it's a rabbit hole. You go down a rabbit hole. I remember once saying, give me an image of monkeys on the beach playing volleyball with the moon setting, and within 15 seconds you get that image. But there are tools out there that allow you to create graphics so you don't need to hire designers. You can customize them for your message. And I'll put this link in the, it'll be in the follow-up, but I've listed a few of the services out there that could create different AI-generated content that are out there.
I love that. I love that. And then, going back to both of you subjects around this data warehousing, and I love the example around video and imagery. It's one of those subjects personally I'm not too familiar on. My background was in computational linguistics, so it was way more on the transformer models, chat GPT type language stuff. I don't know anything about video and imagery, to be honest. But it's cool to see that these kinds of platforms are coming out and adopting AI one way or another to generate content at scale that's not just text-based. Now, one thing I did want to mention that you touched on, Larry, around, you centralize this data so you could better understand your guests, and then you could send more targeted marketing campaigns. One of the things I think that's really unique about vacation rental businesses, unlike hotels, is that every vacation rental property is different. Every guest is different. Okay, maybe that's same for hotels. Every operator is going to be different. The booking channels, and therefore the types of guests, the owners of those properties. And so there's so much variety in vacation rental that it's hard to standardize things. And what centralizing your data means is, while you have all of this variety in one single place, you can start better understanding your business despite all of these differences. So I'll give you a few examples of questions. And I know I'm going completely off script, but Larry, Braden, this is what happens when you have a webinar with me. I always go off script. Sasha knows it. But one of these things that I'd love for people in the audience to start thinking about is, what are the top inquiry questions that you get? And if you can't answer this with a data-driven then you're not thinking it correctly. Like we all know kind of gut feeling, oh, I get a lot of families, my business, so I get a lot of questions about ski rentals, but show me the data. Tell me 75% of people ask me this question, right? And then do something about it. If you can answer the question of like, what kind of guests are booking the properties? Is it young couples? Is it yuppies? Is it older folks? Is it families, et cetera? And again, I'm sure you kind of get a rough estimate of what that is. But if you can centralize this information, you can ask questions to better understand your business. And this goes on. How do you identify fraudulent guests? What is the first impression of a guest stay? I'll tell you, in the hotel space, one of the first impressions is they walk in, they sit on the bed, they check the comfort of the bed, they go in the bathroom, check the cleanliness of the bathroom, and then they kind of look at the room. What is that same first impression that your properties are giving to your guests? What are the top 3 questions asked during the guest stay? And you can keep going in this rabbit hole of understanding all this information, but the only way to do this is if you have one place where you can sort of centralize this information, or if you don't have one place, that these different places are communicating with each other so that you can pull and push information from them. So a little bit about data warehousing. We've seen amazing examples. We've run a webinar in the past with a gentleman named Benjamin Gross from Minty Living, who actually decided, you know what, I use a PMS, I use a guest experience platform, I use this, that, etc. But I'm going to centralize all of my information in ClickUp or Hightable. So other basically glorified Excel spreadsheets, but that are more modulable, where you can send information, receive information from different tools. On this note, we're gonna move on to a bit of a different topic around the challenges of implementing AI. So obviously there's a shortage of skilled talent for this specifically. In fact, a survey said that about 75% of people don't really know how to get started with this. There's algorithm model failures, and I've seen a few comments about this around hallucinations. So how do we train the model better? How do we make sure we have some sort of feedback loop so that we're getting better and better and better with these models? By the way, 3.5 versus 4, just for context. 4 is optimized for accuracy. 3.5 is optimized for speed. That being said, I would keep a watchful eye for Genie, which is Microsoft's new version of things, because I think that's going to take over 4, 3.5, 3.5 Turbo, and any of the other models that you see out there. Just a little heads up there. And then, of course, the lack of tech infrastructure to even support AI. So going back to data warehousing. What do you guys think are some of the challenges in implementing AI in this industry, specifically hospitality?
Yeah, I'll jump in first. I think you touch on a couple of them. Disconnected, disparate data sources. Let's get these things connected either into a CDP or some sort of structured format. That can be a big barrier. Certainly, talent is a big one. It's eye-watering, the costs associated with hiring a senior AI engineer. But I think what a lot of folks, especially on this call, should recognize is you're running unique businesses, you have unique clientele. The business challenges you're trying to solve are probably not all that unique and align with a lot of the other folks on this call. And so this is where there's like a great space for vendors to fill that gap. Because in addition to the challenges in identifying and hiring an AI professional who's getting like high 6-figure offers out of the Bay Area, is the actual infrastructure.
As we know with Evan.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's not even an engineer. He can just talk about it. So I think the other piece there is the equipment itself. For those of us who are in the industry, you probably had heard all about like the shortage of specific video cards that are using to produce these things. Thankfully, some of that pressure is alleviating. There's starting to be like AI platforms as a service where you're not having to maintain your own data center, but you can still write all your own AI. That's still for towards the upper end of the market, maybe just short of true enterprise. So I think the biggest challenges I see from this group outside of those top level ones are a lack of insight on where they can make the biggest difference with these things. Where's the right place to get started just strategically for the business and understanding a strategy behind that? We've all seen the hype, but like where's the ROI? Where can I actually make a material difference in my business and not just get duped by somebody selling me something off the hype train?
Right. So I
100%.
I totally agree with you. And one of the things that we see the vast majority of property managers in our industry use software from other providers. They don't develop their own solutions. Maybe you have your own sub-solutions to customize how you use Tracker, Streamline, or Escapia, or Guesty, or how you're using, you tweak your beyond pricing. But there are solutions out there, many solutions out there. We offer them. Enzo Connect has this whole suite of services for communication that you wouldn't want to hire a developer to do all the customization because it's done. I mean, it's just so. And we saw this. There are so Jasper. I don't know if you're familiar with Jasper. Jasper was one of the first AI providers out there of content. They were way ahead of the market. They're $800 a month up until the announcement of ChatGPT, and then the prices plummeted, just absolutely plummeted, because it became it was a democratization of AI for the industry. It made it available to everyone. There are plenty of solutions out there that you could find that works in your model, whether it's for guest communication, whether it's for your dynamic pricing. The vast majority, we work with the largest property management companies in the industry, and very few of them develop their own solutions. They may, and if they're not doing it, you should just find a vendor that follows up, whether it's content creation, guest communication, your dynamic pricing, your website performance. Hire a vendor that specializes, because every vendor in the industry is looking at adding AI to their platform.
100%. It's one of the biggest trends for 2024. And again, as you go through this assessment, go through the 5P rules of purpose, people, process, platform, and performance. Think through those problems really before you just get any system that's out there, whether it's increasing conversion rates of direct bookings, whether it's reducing support questions of guests, whether it's being able to onboard properties faster. And again, write some KPIs, put a benchmark, right? If it takes you a week to onboard a new property, why not go in and figure out how to do it in a day? Why not go in and figure out how to do it in 2 days? What do you need to reduce that time to make clients happier, your owners, your guests happier, and so on? Really appreciate you guys sharing all of these nuggets of gold. We've got some really cool questions that are popping up. So I figure, we've got about 10, 13 minutes left for this webinar. I do want to be respectful of everyone's time here on stage today. Should we get started on answering a few of these questions? Is there anything else you guys want to share a bit more on AI in the industry before we start answering questions? Good to go?
I could go all day, but I think we should get to questions. Yeah,
I know. I see so many. I'm like, I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all of them. So has anyone here, we're going to start off with Raph McLeod. Has anyone here actually trained a GPT on a rental inventory data and implemented successfully to a rental company website, i.e. website chatbot? Interesting question. I have not yet seen this. I know on our end, we have been training our models directly on our customers' data, specifically to predict responses. Our accuracy rates aren't high enough yet to be able to send it like a full chatbot. And I think it's also because of the comfort level of the hospitality industry. Sending one bad message out of 10 to a guest is really bad, versus maybe in a different industry where it's like, oh my God, that's totally fine. You could do 4 bad messages out of 10 and they'd be happy. In the hospitality industry, you really need that 95% success rate first. So it's all about how much data people have in our platform, or in general platforms. You can, I would say, do almost a self-trained version of these ChatGPT modules. For those who don't know, you can create tabs in ChatGPT and you can dump as much content as you want. You can get your VAs to put in questions and answers as fast as possible in there, so that every time they have a question, it becomes almost like a Google search specifically for your business. Something I always recommend. When a VA asks you a question at 9 p.m. and you're just trying to have your family dinner or whatever, and it's one of those questions you're like, oh my God, I've answered this before. Again, this is where AI can come in and help you out. Another one we have is we use VoiceFlow for our AI chatbot on our side. So, okay, this is a good example actually. But it uses GPT for answers. We connected it to our PMS's API. Ooh, a little custom dev work here. I see, Derek. That's awesome. Let's see if we have a question here. Will we be sharing these session recordings later? Absolutely, we will be. We'll have a whole page up and running with all the links that Larry shared and Braden shared as well. Hallucination. Derek, I'm using ChatGPT 3.5 as well, but find that it hallucinates a lot. Do you have this problem? Braden, do you have any advice on reducing hallucination?
I think frankly, it's a problem for like the LLM model builders to solve. There are some intelligent prompts you can do to be more specific to avoid it. But I think that it is core to remember that these systems are not the first priority is a natural, believable response, not a precise, accurate response. And those are different things. And
Yep.
so it can be a case of maybe using the wrong tool. I will say I have experience as a hobbyist building a chatbot for vacation rentals. I plugged into the OpenAI API and used GPT-4, and I asked it to write me an autoresponder for Airbnb reviews for a hypothetical property management company in Gatlinburg. And we had the response to the interview, to all of the reviews be in the voice of Dolly Parton, just to kind of make it cute. And it was fairly functional, like it worked well. But yeah, the 1 in 20 that just came back with something unhinged would do reputation damage that wouldn't be acceptable for virtually any business. And so I do think that it's a really important consideration for how you roll out a chatbot. And getting back to purpose, like how much of your staff's time is actually, do you stand to save? Because a lot of them are still going to have to get escalated to people. And is a 30 to 50% reduction in inquiry response a needle mover for your business? It takes, you have to be really at scale for that to be the case.
And
I would say one thing. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to add to the point is as you're looking to add this information, right, and you're kind of sub-training your own models, I would be cautious around privacy and personal information. This is something that isn't yet really discussed in this industry, and totally understandable. Obviously, being French, not from Quebec, but from France, GDPR is a big thing. Not that I'm like really big on it. It's really annoying sometimes to have to abide by all these policies. In Canada, it's PIPEDA, et cetera, et cetera. But it's actually really important because you're treating a lot of sensitive information. In fact, GDPR is so restrictive that just the name of your guests is already privacy concerns. So as you're adding this information in ChatGPT and whatever system you decide to use, make sure they have somewhat of a comprehensive privacy policy or structure in place if you are going to be sharing very personal information. You definitely don't want to be sharing medical records or anything like that. Not that this industry would have this information. We're primarily dealing with, check-in dates and guest names. But if you have VIP clientele, if you have that personalization information, et cetera, this is a consideration as you're using different systems. Go ahead, Larry. You were going to add something.
No, one of the things we do, not with chatbots, but with any content creation used with any systems, you got to read it. You got to read everything in there and prove everything that goes there. Don't take it without editing everything.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I see Sergio, Eric, I see a few other questions as well. So I got Guest Guru, Get Host AI. Any thoughts on them? So I actually just had a chat on Friday last week with Cole from Host AI. And I've been speaking as well with Sam from Bestie. I think all these platforms, we have our own model at this stage called Enzo AI in our platform. I think ultimately we're all using the same algorithms. It all comes down to which data sets, where are we syncing the information. I think there's a bit of a play right now on who has access to which OTA messaging channels so that it's not just SMS. So that should be interesting. We're definitely interested in opening a bit our API to provide flexibility to our users. If you prefer to use Guest Guru, if you prefer to use Host AI, ultimately, all these tools, ours, theirs, anyone's, is going to be dependent on prompt engineering. So the idea of just constantly feeding back information, the idea of checking almost manually, this was good, this was bad, this was good, this was bad, and going through this data so that we can train it ourselves. Who has more resources to do so? That depends on the companies and the use cases and so on. So no comment, I would say, but these are all amazing platforms without a doubt.
Yeah, I see a question here from Megan I want to address. Do you see that? How do you reduce time to onboard a property with AI? So one of the steps of onboarding a property with AI is to, number one, build the property listings, distribute, get it photographed, get your contract signed, and get it on your website, get it onto all the OTAs, get everything booked. You can use services, you can use ChatGPT or a variety of services to help write your content and to optimize it for all the different OTAs. We have tools that do that, but there are a lot of other solutions as well that help improve your writing.
I love it. Sorry, I wasn't even looking at the right tab. There were so many questions in the chat. I wasn't even looking at the actual questions tab where there's all the questions. Apologies, everyone. That makes perfect sense. That's a great answer, Larry. And I think your tool actually helps out with some of this stuff, right?
It does.
You have a content system that,
Yeah,
amazing.
we actually have we have a system at Genie that helps you write property listing and do all your content. We did it for for make your job easier at Genie.
I love that. I wonder whether the other steps, I've seen people leverage AI as well for utility setup, Wi-Fi setup in the properties as well, which is one of the steps that they have to obviously do when they bring on a new property. So get creative, I think, is the answer on some of these operation questions. What else do we have questions? Let me mark this one as I'm done. This is like a CRM. We're going through the questions, team. In order, let's see, upvoted right here. Kim Blackwell, I need resources as a starting point, websites, articles, podcasts, etc. Braden, I think you have an amazing news letter, right, that you're sending out. Maybe you want to share. I was
just about to plug it into the answer key there. I was typing and the interface changed on me. So yes, really proud of our team. We just launched a new educational newsletter. So this is not an advertising newsletter where you're going to hear about Adaptive every month. But we just launched a new newsletter that's a digest of kind of all the new technology that we've identified that's coming out, some things that we're reading about, some things that we're writing about. So if you are interested in kind of the growth of AI in hospitality, highly encourage you to sign up at adaptive.com/predictive hospitality. We'll have the link at the end of this program as well, and I'll put it in the answer queue there. But yeah, adaptive.com/predictive hospitality.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to send all these links after. We've got a question. Now, this is an interesting one. Is there a large barrier for the PMS systems to implement AI chatbots in their messaging system? To me, it seems like a no-brainer to add this feature as soon as possible. What do you guys think about this?
All right. It's the big PMS, PMSs are going to be slower to implement because it takes them longer to do it. So I would trust third-party people who integrate with them to build that in place. That's just my general sense. I am sure it's on the roadmap of all the PMSs, but I would imagine that I spoke to the CEO of two of the largest PMSs, and one of the key things they said is by them having an open API and integrations with partners, it allows things to happen faster. So look at third-party vendors, but I'm sure they'll have a good solution at one point.
I mean, this is the debate of the all-in-one versus best in class. I could go on for ages about this subject. I think, yes, ultimately every system, even Airbnb, I mean, they made a $200 million acquisition of an AI company. They're going to build out their own functionalities around this. I think any company that doesn't have some form of AI within it to understand the data that's out there, process it faster, is going to be losing some way or another. So the one thing I would say, Derek, around that question is, when you look at tools like Bestie or Host AI, et cetera, that are specializing on these specific verticals, they have maybe less resources than a big PMS, but they're entirely focused on this one problem. Right. So the quality of responses and so on is going to be better. The one challenge I would say for some of these systems is the access to data. At Enzo Connect, we're one of I think there's only 3 companies in the industry that is not a PMS that is directly integrated to Airbnb. So how do you become one of these systems and send Airbnb messages? Simple things like that, which unfortunately are going to be more challenging that PMSs do have access to. So, but again, this goes into a different subject that I always love talking about, fragmentation versus best in class. I know Terry White and I had an amazing webinar about this in a fiery conversation on this subject. I don't know if you're here, Terry, but hope you are. I'm going to mark this one as done as well. Is there a good tool for an internal chatbot trained on our data for offshore VA questions? I mean, I hate being like a proclaiming anything. We do help out with that if you want to learn more. But just to be candid, you can also do this for free. You can do this directly in ChatGPT and just create folders for each of your properties. Obviously, it's not the sexiest way of doing things. It's not the easiest way of doing things, but at least get started. And again, going back to the 5 Ps, right? We're looking at analyzing performance. Has this really helped your VAs? And once you realize, yep, this is helping my VAs, then start thinking about how you can invest money in the right platforms that can help you do this at scale.
As kind of a neutral observer there, I would say if you have somebody on staff who's very technically minded, if this is something interesting to them, using something like ChatGPT, or like the version I did was GPT-4 through an API, that could be well within reach. But I would say if your eyes just glazed over as I described that, you should give Francois a call, because they can make that a lot easier.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'm going to mark this one as done. We have some questions in the non-question section as well. So do you guys think smaller property managers, 100 properties, need a tech advocate in the company? Not a full-on CTO, but someone who is the company tech geek that can push the team always forward.
At 100 properties,
I'll let you guys answer it first.
Too late at 100,
yeah. I would say probably 50, probably almost at 50.
Yeah. I mean, every business has technology involved, right? I doubt that there's any hospitality operator out there that's still taking reservations on spreadsheets. And I think having that tech advocate means you'll always be ahead of the curve. I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean, the big thing here is you'll know when you have that person, because they're bringing you those new technologies. They've thought about it. They understand how it fits into your business. But I've been lucky in that every business I've operated in, I've been surrounded by folks like that. But it's like difficult to overstate how much you're missing out, because if you have somebody who has an eye for what can be, even setting aside AI, what can be automated, what can be streamlined and optimized with the tools that are coming out, you're going to find they're going to be able to unlock potential in the rest of your employee base. This is not somebody who's just going to bring to you new costs for you to approve and new software to add to your monthly invoicing. This is somebody who hopefully can find ways to, make the rest of your staff 20, 50% more efficient. That's certainly what we've found by, deploying things like productivity tools like Copilots for coders, for content generation, for the folks working on our websites. All of those things should be huge efficiency gains for you. And you do need somebody who kind of understands your business to find how they apply. There's a lot of salespeople out there who are going to tell you they can solve all your problems. But having that person in the business who's just intellectually curious, bringing these solutions to you is a huge advantage. And they don't need to be a CTO. They don't need to be a full-on programmer even. Really just somebody with an interest and then an understanding of your business.
I want to answer Kelly's question. I'm sure Kelly's not the only one. It's like, where do I start? How do I get started? This is overwhelming for a lot of people who aren't on the upper quartile of tech savviness. So get an account with ChatGPT. It's easy to do. Play around with it. See what it's like. Ask about all sorts of stuff. You can understand what you could do. We have solutions that are available. Enzo Connect has solutions that are available. I posted a bunch of other content creation solutions on the link I provided for a lot of providers. You're not going to do your revenue optimization yourself. You need a company like Adaptive to do that. You'll need Beyond Pricing to do and dynamic pricing to take advantage of AI. But to use the tools of ChatGPT, it's out there. It's not hard to start playing around with it to get started.
Yeah. And to tie both of those questions, just as we were talking about, like, do you need a CTO? And then how do I get started? I think going back to I'm sorry for repeating this, but the 5 Ps, the process, the problem, right? And thinking out through that process. So what happens when, let's say it's owner acquisition, or let's say it's a new property onboarding, right? Map out on a piece of paper or on a fancy tool on some software out there, what are those different steps of onboarding that new property? Figure out all of the different inefficiencies, all the human errors that can happen, all the problems that can happen throughout that process. And then it's not just about looking for technology that can solve that, but thinking, well, is this the right process? Do I need to build a new process, something different, right? So what are the different steps when I need to bring on a new property? And then start looking at tools that are out there that might actually help you automate some of the bulkier chunks of that process where you have a lot of manual labor involved, where there's a lot of errors. Quantify the time of those different buckets. And so the reason I tied the two questions is, again, going back into like, where do I get started, was first, what are the problem that you're facing before you just get started in AI, right? What is that key problem that you're facing that you want to solve? And then we'll figure out if AI is even needed to solve this. And then going back to what Braden was saying around the right person and CTO, a good operations manager, a good operations person isn't just someone who can handle all the shit that you don't want to handle that you were handling before. It's someone who can actually build those processes and get your business from growing linearly to scaling exponentially. So those would be my two tips, kind of tying those two. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, Kelly had a question as well. She has a question. She wants to know what the rentals company does and what Enzo does. And we'll pray. So what we do at the rentals company, we have a whole suite of growth solutions for the vacation rental property managers. That's all we do. We have a suite of software that dovetails in with, it solves many of the problems that are unsolved by your PMSs or anyone else's. And we don't we don't do dynamic pricing. We don't do websites. We don't do guest engagement. But we have a whole, from everything from owner acquisition, customer data platforms, artificial intelligence, and telephony solutions that helps you grow. And that's what we do. We also have booking channels on rentals.com. So we solve both ends of your business. Enzo Connect dovetails beautifully with what we do and go from there. And
we're guest engagement. So we primarily just focus on automating communication, new monetization opportunities with upsells, basically streamlining the whole guest experience with what we call a boarding pass. So it's a digital guest app that's fully configurable. But happy to schedule some time, Kelly. Was it Kelly? And
Yep.
Share more on that front. I see Terry is in the webinar, so awesome. Thanks, Terry. And then we've got one question from Sergio. What is the most robust relationship integration between Enzo and a PMS? I don't think I should answer that on the webinars just because we have to stay agnostic to all of our PMS partners. They're all great in their own unique ways. And I think we all know that, being on the vendor side, what strengths they have and weaknesses and so on. But that's every software. We have our own strengths and weaknesses and so on. So Sergio, I'm happy to better understand your business and maybe point you in the right direction in that sense. We have one other question. I think we should, get this last question too, maybe, Francois answered it like he's from Switzerland.
He is from near Switzerland.
I'm from France. I should have given up, but it's all good. I'll go for a budding politician. Thank you. I sound like Trudeau, eh? Are you guys using AI agents yet? Curious how quickly these will become useful for us in automating pretty simple processes now performed offshore. I'm just getting into it right now. We're looking at a company called Superflows. It's an API of agents. So we're just kind of looking into, is it hallucinating? Is it providing the right data to basically beef up our reporting systems? I think it's huge. I think it's a massive opportunity. I think it's very dependent on each technology. I mean, Braden, Larry, what do you guys think on AI agents?
I'm extremely bullish on the opportunity moving forward. I think that they are going to become a big part of our daily lives over the next few years. I would say that comes with some pretty exceptional risk with the way that they're built right now and what their capabilities are. I've written an AI agent, which means that I asked ChatGPT to write me an AI agent that aggregates hospitality news for me every day. It crawls the internet for things I'm interested in and gives me a digest of news. That's a pretty simple proof of concept that has value. I've worked with a similar one that we developed, and I say we still as a hobbyist, not my business, that is crawling competitor listings and providing a sentiment analysis to understand what's changing. So these are just ways you can kind of ask something to monitor and report to you on. Of course, you can take that to the nth degree. We've maybe heard some of these stories about how you can ask it to, do incredible things like, take over the world, and it's going to try, but they ultimately don't have the tools yet. But I do think that you're going to see more and more tools get released that are essentially agents in a brand skin, something that, personalizing an agent to perform actions for you. Things like renewing orders for materials for your housekeepers, stuff like that can be automated very easily and an agent could handle. I'm not aware of a solution that's doing that yet, but I certainly see a path there that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. I'm more conservative on that. I like the high touch experience and using AI tools. I'm not usually conservative on that, but I am when it comes to high touch guest experiences.
Fair enough. A last question, and then we'll leave it at this. We're already a bit over time. Really appreciate Braden and Larry for you guys sticking around here. for all these questions. As a follow-up question to that, around the CTO on staff, how many people do you feel a rental management company needs on staff for an inventory between 20 to 50? Currently, I'm growing it alone on roughly 30 properties and have about 16 waiting to come on board. What do you guys think? How do we quantify this?
Boy, that's a deep question, because it depends on your market, your goals, your competition, your inventory. I would say, and I've never run a property management business myself. I've worked with hundreds. I would say there's a definite gap that's very challenging to overcome, where your business can scale with yourself or your partner up to a certain point. And then you really need to, frankly, we see people burn out of the business at this stage because they try to grow to where they can hire staff, but they're in that middle ground where they can't quite afford to hire the team. And so they're having to perform more roles themselves. So my general advice to kind of nascent growing companies is sprint through that phase, acquire as much inventory as you can to where you can easily justify those hires. Because obviously as an asset manager, you need to be very judicious with what you're investing in. Would hate to see somebody wasting money on staff for something that's not necessary.
100%. Larry, what do you think?
I know that Guesty has a solution. Guesty has a solution, which is interesting, that where you just pay for their offshore agents to be your staff. It's very expensive, but it's cheaper than hiring your own staff. I would just follow what Brady, sprint through it, hire people. The first 50 properties are really tough. Once you get to 50, once you're doing 50, you're doing a really good amount of business. You should be making a living at that point.
100%. I think also just quantify the time that you're spending. This is not AI topic related, but I read the book Buy Back Your Time, and it completely changed the way I operated on a daily basis. Think about it as, again, this is not on the AI side, Shane, so happy to have a chat, but think of it as a quadrant of what's important and makes you money and makes you happy, what's not important and doesn't make you happy, what makes you happy but doesn't make you money, and whatever the fourth permutation is, and just focus entirely on the things that either make you happy and make you money, or that just make you happy, because that's just self-learning. And if it makes you money and you don't like doing it, find a way for someone else to do it at a cheaper rate than your rate. And I think you can really start scaling your team that way. Ever since reading that book, that's just helped me grow from, we were 2 people starting this out of college. And now we're, a small team of like 25 people, and it's more ownership for everyone on my team. So anyways, that's a bit about the book Buy Back Your Time, but definitely always happy to have a conversation about that. This is amazing. Braden, Larry, thank you so much for your time. We're going to be sharing a few resources with everyone after this, as well as how to get in touch with you guys and learn more about your respective products. Super happy to have you guys on stage today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Braden. Thanks, guys.
100%. Thanks to the audience, and we'll see you guys on the next webinar.
Cheers.
Awesome. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much.